Howdy, howdy, Frosty510 here. I just finished REANIMAL. Now, I say finished, but I'm going to be clear that I know that there is DLC that's coming out, so I do want to, I think it's important to say that I think the full experience will be once the DLCs are out. It only took me, how are we doing on time? I think it's probably like 4.5 hours, 5 hours, I would think, around there, maybe a little bit less. Yeah, maybe a bit less, maybe like 4.5 hours. So that's, again, that's an experience. It's not like crazy long or anything. If you like shorter games, sure. I'm aware that there's DLCs that add more, more content and stuff. The game is, similar to the Little Nightmares. You're in a co-op. If single player, you just control one character and then occasionally you tell the other one to do something. It's not really that demanding. The puzzling isn't particularly challenging. The stealths aren't challenging. It's not a hard game, I wouldn't say. Maybe probably the biggest challenge is really just depths of field and not having much lighting to work with. So my brightness is pretty reasonable. So it's not like crazy high brightness or anything. So there was times where I jumped into holes because I couldn't see them. I just didn't, because they were at a distance. The camera itself holds positions to try and obfuscate your perspective and make it harder for you to perceive where to go at times. So it does want you to move around a bit. But at the same time, if it was a better, not even better, if it was a less stylistic camera positioning, then it would be an easier game to figure out at times, that's okay. That's fine. That's a stylistic choice. That's what it is. Perspectives and scale obviously is a big part of it, where you're tiny and the world is big, but then sometimes it's okay. It seems like you're to scale and other times you're not. Yeah, so some things aren't to scale and some are, and obviously that's part of the monstrosity and the feeling of being tiny and escaping and running away and all this sort of stuff. I wouldn't say it's scary, but it's not for kids, teenagers. I think it's not for kids or teenagers. I don't want to spoil it, but there's one section in the game that feels completely at odds with the rest of the game. And I don't understand. It doesn't fit, I feel like, in the world. It doesn't. There's a lot of time, a different clash of eras, which, yeah, I don't think they work at all. But having said that, it's not a bad game. I think this is one where if you wait for a discount and it's like 10, 15 bucks, not a problem. 30 bucks, you're asking a little. Does it meet that? I think if you're playing co-op, it's probably more challenging than solo, obviously, because you have two people controlling things. Does it make it more interesting? Maybe. But there's a lot that doesn't make a lot of sense. They don't explain a lot. There's a whole lot of mystery, but not... The characters don't react to anything, so I had no fear. There was no fear. I didn't feel like it was a horror, except for that part with the different time zone thing. And it just, the different era. It just felt like that was so weird to add. I don't understand why they added it. And it has some visceral, gore parts, but there's a couple in particular I'm just like, why? Why do they have them in the game? It's just a little bit offensive. I think a little bit offensive. But I know there's enough games about, different eras and things like that maybe it's just being a bit sensitive, but it just felt like it didn't add anything to the game. It just felt like it was like, what? How does that fit? It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit at all. But it's a weird sort of game. I feel like it has a consistent theme up until the last quarter of the game, and then it goes off the rails. But not in a game's interesting, more like just why. I think the characters, there's not a lot of character in them, but there's a little tiny bit. And a sort of, I wouldn't even say a twist ending or anything, but it's It's hard to say there's much of a narrative. The characters don't talk enough for there to be a build-up of suspense or fear in certain situations throughout the whole game. It feels like if they added a bit more dialogue or just exasperations, reactions, screams or fears or anything like that expressed by the kids, then it would feel like there's more impact. But because they mute the reactions of all the characters, I'm just gonna go off what the character's going off. If this is just another day, it's just another day. If they treat everything like it's just normal, whatever, not a big deal, it's not a big deal to me. But if the character's, emoting and saying that it's a big deal, then I'll start to feel like it is a bit more of a big deal. So I do, read off whatever the character in the game is saying and doing and how they're behaving to gauge what sort of reaction I should have to that situation. But here, there's nothing really to work with, so you just I guess it's more room for co-op if you're talking to, a partner or a friend or whatever, playing with it, that you would fill the gaps and react to the scenes and be reacting to each other, and that would sort of build some sort of suspense, some sort of horror, because you're both together. So I can understand there's room for that, but I still feel like there's so little dialogue throughout the entire game that they could have talked a little more and just been like, shit, what the hell is that? Or like, what is that? A couple of what is that's and, a bit of scared in the voice they would have done wonders, honestly. Just a little bit of, So I do have a concept art. I got some at gallery stuff so we can look. Did I get everything? I avoided that. See, this is the part that didn't make any sense why it was. This part was just weird. Yeah. Stylistically, I think the enemies and those things are interesting. I wouldn't say they're scary, but they're interesting. There is a little bit of combat where you actually do fight things, but you don't have a health bar or anything. You just press a couple of buttons. The actual gameplay is pretty minimal. So if you're not too big of a gamer, I think that's fine. You don't have to worry. It's not you won't have any skill checks, except the one boss fight where you have to throw the spears. And the other bit, yeah, that's fine. You'll be able to do that. So I don't think you have any trouble if you're worried about if you don't game regularly. That's fine. I don't think you worry about that. But it's definitely an experience. But it's... yeah, I don't know. I want to hold back complete judgment for waiting for the DLCs. Once the DLCs are there and I play them and then I sort of combine it all together, then I can do like a proper assessment. But from this point of view of just the REANIMAL base game, no DLCs, because they're not out, I would say just wait for a discount. Maybe even a heavy discount. That's where I'm at on it. I don't regret it, but it's not much of a game in terms of gameplay, and it's not much of a story in terms of story, and it's not much of a narrative in terms of there's nothing. So there's just style, and there's you being tiny. And then occasional puzzles, but they're not that common, the puzzles. Mostly just traversal, jumping a gap every now and then bits where you have to whack a few things with your wrench, and then like a boss fight. I wish it was more poignant. I wish there was more any sort of just tiny bits more dialogue would have done a lot. I feel like this is a game that you could easily make it a lot more powerful. That's where I'm at. I'm like, this game could be way better if they just added little bits of dialogue. It just added some more impact. But yeah, it's not a kid's game. No, it's not a kid's game. I'll just show that picture again. Explain why it's not a kid's game. This bit. Yeah, this whole section is just like... it's just constantly this. But they're shooting themselves and they're blowing themselves up. It's just like... yeah. I don't understand. I don't understand why it's in the game. It doesn't fit everything else here. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. doesn't make any sense. So if it's just concept art turned into a game, that makes a lot of sense in my mind, because there's no coherent narrative. Your characters do a lot of things that don't explain why they're doing them. So it's, imagine you're playing God of War. You're in the boat. You got to go to the open. You got to go to the other little sections that get you, solve the little puzzles. But no one's talking. No Mimir. No Atreus. No Kratos. No one's saying anything or explaining anything ever. And it's like, okay. There's no build up through dialogue or through character expression. So, yeah, you got to interpret whatever little you've got to work with, and there isn't much to work with. So, your characters just are magical. These kids are magical. They can just solve problems and do all this stuff, and they don't even have to talk to each other. Like, I cannot imagine. Like Last of Us, just so much dialogue, but it's relevant to where they're going, what they're doing, and interesting. And here, heaven forbid they speak. They cannot speak. But yeah, it's weird. It is weird. I do think, like, if I was to cut out that one section, then I would say it's okay. But with this one section, it really just puts me in a position of being like against the game at times. I'm like, I don't understand why you added it. Message to the devs, I don't think it made any sense, particularly times era mishmash sort of stuff. It didn't add to the game. I don't think there's any greater message, because it's just, yeah. Or maybe the message is that every soldier pulls a pin. It's like, it's just like, yeah. It's yeah. It's a WTF moment, honestly. It's weird. Alright, yeah. If you want to see my playthrough, obviously just go onto my channel and press the live. Go on the live page and have a look. Probably save yourself some bucks. This is probably the perfect game, I'm being real, to watch other people play on, to watch streamers play it. Like, I stream it, but I would say watch two people play it together, and then never buy it. I think that's where it's at. Like, that's the perfect spot for it. Because, like, you couch co-op and you play with, like, a younger sibling, do not do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. I'm just going to say, don't do that. Just because of that one section, don't do that. Yeah. Alright, but that's what I think. What do you think of REANIMAL? Do you think it's the best thing ever? Do you think it's better than sliced bread? Or do you think it's just like a disjointed mishmash of concepts and it's not really a coherent anything? Like, yeah, I mean, it had a chance to be coherent, and then it throws it away, I feel like. But I'm pretty harsh at times on things, so, color me surprised when things happen that just don't add anything of any value and just distract, and then, yeah. Weird. I'll wait for the DLCs though, and we'll see if those are any good, and then, yeah. But yeah, catch you next time. It's been Frosty510. Like and subscribe, and tell me what you think of REANIMAL. Is it a horror game? Kinda. Yeah, kinda.